What is up, everybody in the dad bod transformation world? Matt Griffiths here. I'm one of the resident coaches and moderator on this forum. I wanted to go through some information with you today after mentioning something to one of my clients from this group. And it's specifically to do with certain movements that are involved, that sometimes you look at them and you think, well, why am I doing that? What's the point of this particular movement? Why am I bothering wasting my... This movement's not building muscle mass. It's not cutting me up. I've left my phone on loud, so apologies when you hear pings of messages and what have you coming through. So what I want to talk to you about with this is a few of the little trade secrets from the strength world that you may not be aware of. Now, these are tricks that strength conditioning coaches have been using for decades, for decades. But you don't see a lot of it on forums, and you don't see a lot of it in cookie cutter routines, and you don't see a lot of it with very inexperienced coaches. What is happening, Kyle, Sammy? Hope you're doing well. So what I'm talking about here is what we actually refer to in the strength community as assistance. Now, this gets convoluted quite a lot because people go, oh, I'm doing this assistance, I'm doing that, I'm doing, I don't know, side lateral raises. This is assistance for my shoulders. What are you assisting exactly? Can you explain that to me? What are you assisting? The whole purpose of assistance is exactly that. It actually assists something else. What you're doing might not be the prime focus. What it's doing is creating a better base for a different movement, okay? Now, any of you out there in the engineering trade, building trade, etc., that kind of thing, you'll be very, very well aware of the sort of ideas, and so will everybody else, to be fair, the ideas around sort of the structure of buildings. Now, you don't come out as a person that's buying a new house or that's commissioning a new building or anything like that and start going, well, I want to look at the foundations. Hey, I want photos of that foundation. I want to spend my time relaxing in my new house with a picture of my foundations on the wall. You don't. But you want them to be solid, don't you? Because it's upon the foundation that everything else is built. And what I see on here far, far too much, when people are posting certain videos about compound lifts, you see a lot of advice come on, and everybody is only trying to help, and that's fantastic. But understand that some of these compound movements are quite complex. They're not exactly simple. They're not exactly straightforward. Hello to all the guys that are coming on. So the secrets around this all boils down to these big movements. Now, you can look at the prime ones that get used in, say, the powerlifting world. You've got your squat, your bench press, your deadlift. I'd add into these sort of a standing overhead press, perhaps a clean and jerk or a power clean and push press, which is more common in a regular gym. Perhaps some things like a barbell row, etc. Now, I could send somebody a program and they could have something really, really strange that people will look at and they'll go, what is that? And it could be perhaps, let's talk about bench press, the second most popular lift in the gym community, next only to the bicep curl. So there's a lot of components to the bench press. People immediately think of the likes of Arnold Schwarzenegger, big pecs, big shoulders, big triceps, big pressing power. Fantastic. But there's a lot more to it than that. And the way I'm going to explain this to you is very straightforward. And it's a phrase I love to use in strength and conditioning because I love a good metaphor. And it simply is, you cannot fire a cannon from a canoe. Okay? If you were in that sort of war situation and you were trying to fire a gunpowder cannon from something like that, it's just going to capsize you and fire off. You're trying to generate force from an unstable base. So if I'm to offer somebody a single movement, such as a one-armed paused dumbbell press, probably most of you have not heard of this kind of movement before. It's a very, very strange one. Literally, you will be lying on a bench with one dumbbell, not one in the other hand to balance you out, one dumbbell. You'll immediately have to bring it across the center of the body because it's going to try and rip you off the bench to the side, and you're performing a press with that. people will immediately think, well, you can't press a great deal of weight like that. What's the point? It's not going to build my bench press. It's not trying to build your bench press. What this kind of movement is doing is creating stability within the shoulder joint and stability through your core, which will then enable you to transfer that extra stability across to the bench press, which in turn gives you greater control over a weight, gives you a more optimal force line, and then means that you can put more power in the right place and develop a bigger bench press. You may not even necessarily get stronger, but you all of a sudden can lift more weight and stimulate your muscles better because you have a greater level of control. Now here's a secret. Here's one that a lot of people won't ever tell you. Bench press, deadlift, squat, all these things. 99 times out of 100, the problem is based down to the line of lifting. Now, there's different nuances within each of the lifts. Just some general ones for you on this one. The bench press is brought down with the elbows flared too far one way or the other, so they'll either be really high or really in low, completely changing the angle of the forearm under the arm, so it's not pushing directly under it and it's kicking back one way or the other or out this way, dispersing force. The deadlift, the most common mistake is the bar is too far forward from the centre of mass, which causes the back to round and places pressure on the lumbar spine. The squat is a very, very easy one. Most of the problem based around a squat is down to flexibility. And what this does is cause people to pitch forward and causes them to either, as we call it, butt wink or kick their hips up and backwards and turn it into almost a good morning, or the squat morning as I affectionately call it. So here's the thing, when you're talking about fitness, you're talking about whether it be weight loss, whether it be trying to get a six-pack, whether it be trying to get a bigger lift. If we're taking this squat, and we're going to just use some arbitrary numbers for you, we're going to say you squat 300 pounds for 10 repetitions, okay? And your form isn't great, your form's in a bad line and all that, and you spend the rest of that workout and perhaps half of another workout in that week working on these issues, working on flexibility, working on stability, working on your balance and control, and over time you come to be squatting 400 pounds for 10 reps, maybe 500 pounds for 10 reps, because you've worked on that stability. Now, you may not have done all the leg exercises in the gym. You may not have been on the hack squat. You may not have been on the leg press. You may not have been on all the leg extensions, leg curl machines, doing all this bits and bobs all over the place. But what you have done is you've addressed the actual issue with your compound lift. And now all of a sudden, the lift that stimulates the most muscle mass, the most muscle growth, the biggest release of growth hormone, etc., the list of benefits that goes with that exercise, and all of a sudden you can perform this one exercise to a very good standard, much better standard than you were doing before. You get to that stage, you've solved your problems. Because you don't even need the hack squat, the leg press, the leg extension, all these things, if you actually learn and spend time doing that lift correctly. Okay? Some of the people with the best leg development in the world focus on just simply squatting right. And the list of benefits and the research backing it up shows that it creates more muscle mass, more stimulation, burns more calories, etc., creates greater thigh strength than any of the machines. Blanket there, any. The leg press, proven not as effective as squats. The hack squat, proven not as effective as barbell squats. But this is the point, you have to learn to do the movement correctly. Okay? It's like, take it if it was your house. Okay? So you've got some dry rot in your house, or, you know, we don't tend to have wooden houses so much in the UK, but say you've got some problem with the wall, the plaster's falling off. You know, you can just go, oh, just cover that up. Just cover it up with something. That's fine. It's not actually solving the problem. And would you do that with your house, knowing that it's not going to solve the problem? Of course you wouldn't. You get the rot treated, you get the damp treated, the plaster's coming off. Find out where the water's coming from first. And then you replaster it, knowing that there's not going to be an issue. And this is where a lot of people are failing. They turn their head away from something the moment it becomes a little bit difficult or challenging, and don't focus on going, right, actually, if I get that right, if I spend 6 months of my life getting this down to the point where it's great, I actually, for the rest of my life, don't need to be messing around doing all these other bits and bobs. Or You can be the biggest crowd and spend most of your time running around all these different machines because it's easier. These machines were actually created and they originated for recovery of injury. That's where they're from. They gave a fixed range of motion and enabled some resistance to be applied. This is where weightlifting machines came from. And then in the age of convenience and the age of things being done for you and the boom of the fitness industry during the 80s and 90s with the action stars coming out, they became popular. It became, hey, I want to build my chest, for example. You know, the t-shirt muscles are always the popular one, the chest, the shoulders, the arms. I want to build this up. How do I do it? Well, it just so happens, look at this machine we've just built. It's perfect for your chest. Because they don't want you to know that the basics are actually all there. They're relatively cheap to get hold of. You don't need a lot of stuff to do it. You don't need, all you need to do is focus on some good techniques with lifting, some good information about it, and making sure that you're not firing the cannon from the canoe. You're firing that cannon from a fortified wall that you've decided to build. And once you've got that, you can massively reduce your exercise time because the main compound exercises you're doing become 100% more effective. I've just completely made that number up, but you get the idea. And you actually can do very, very little. You could do 5 or 6 exercises and you could pretty much work all the major muscle groups of your body in a very short period of time, probably in 2 hours a week. Okay? You don't need to have all this fanciness. You don't need to have a list of 15 different exercises. It's too much. You need to focus more at this stage when you're getting into your journey, focus more of your work, probably within the gym. A good 90% of the effort you put in should be based around the compound and core lifts when you're getting started. Not too much, get them right. Because when you get those things right, then everything else will fall into place. You're building a good foundation for your house. And then the other 10% goes towards your nice little decor, the window boxes, the little flowers you're putting on, and the wallpaper that we all know that our lady folk come in and choose, and we just nod our heads and smile and keep the peace anyway. So that's what I wanted to go over with you today. Focus on getting things right. Focus on that stability. If you have any questions about this one, just shout up, because there's a lot of different little things you can do, a lot of different exercises, and they can build stability in poor joints. There's a lot of people on here, most of us are sort of around the middle-aged area. There's a lot of people on here that have got tweaks, twinges, they've had operations, they've got poor structure in their knees, etc. I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this because of X, Y, Z. The reality, as a specialist in injury recovery, I will tell you straight, they actually are more beneficial to you to do these things, but do them right. Okay, don't just throw in there and try and put some crazy weight on and do it all sloppy. If you do them correctly, they will actually benefit. They've proven benefit to such things as arthritis, sciatic pain. Clients on here, Clive, for example, if you speak to him, instantly he came and had a session with me, changed his positioning on some compound lift. All of a sudden his belt wasn't there and he's doing the same sort of weight, but with no sciatic pain, because he started doing the exercises much, much closer to the correct way of doing them. So do not give up on the basics. This is like priming your engine in a car. Don't just cover it up. Don't just tape over it. Don't just cover up the dry rot in the wall. Fix it. Fix the dry rot, put the effort in, and you will find you get much more progress, much faster, and have much more time to spend around your families. Okay, guys? I've been Matt Griffiths, and still will be tomorrow, hopefully. I'm going to have another coffee now. It's getting a bit later here, and I've still got plenty of work to do. I will be around, so drop us a line if you need any help or have any queries regarding this. And stay safe, guys, and enjoy.